Alrighty, we've made it. It's 2026. Last year was a big one for us. It was our first full year living here on our new property. It was also our first full year living as a family of 4. But amongst all the chaos, we did manage to get a few jobs done, including getting some permanent water hooked up from the dam over here up to a header tank in the backyard. That header tank is feeding our chickens and our aquaponics. Speaking of aquaponics, got our aquaponic build finished off last year. Got quite a few aquaponic build videos up on YouTube if you want to check that out. We've also started off a new market garden up here on the other side of the dam. I'll take you for a look over there now. We'll give you an update on that, give you an update on the aquaponics and tell you a bit more of our plans for this year. Well, I'm just down the bottom of the dam here now. This area we've got earmarked as a woodlot, hopefully to be able to feed our fire in the next 20 or so years. Down the bottom there as well is quite a boggy section that we're going to be encouraging to grow in towards a bit of a wetland. And then up here above the woodlot area, we have this blank canvas, which in spring this year, we are planning on kicking off a series of community markets. Righto, well, this is our initial attempt at a market garden. There's quite a bit of work here to be done, but in saying that we've also done a hell of a lot of work in the last 12 months. This year, we are going to be putting together a series of market garden content, mostly focused around the establishment and bed prep and all of that sort of thing to get us up to where we are now. A big part of that series is going to be focusing on irrigation. We had quite a bit of trouble finding a good solution for what we were trying to do here. We ended up landing on drip tape, which we've ended up having to get from WA. And the fittings for the drip tape we've ended up having to get from Queensland. So obviously not a perfect situation for most, but hopefully if you guys have found yourself in a similar sort of situation, our experience might be able to help you out with that. We have also just harvested our garlic out of some rows that are under this tarp at the moment. The tarp's just getting rid of the rest of the weeds before we put some carrots in shortly. And then also throughout the year, we are going to be expanding this garden down to pretty much the bottom dam bank down there. Anyway, we have got a heap of market garden content coming up this year, so hopefully you can stick around and follow us along. So as well as the market garden irrigation, I'm also wanting to set up some irrigation in this area here. This is a couple of acres that we use to kick a footy and soccer ball and that sort of thing with the kids. At the moment, there is irrigation on it, but it comes from the bioseptic, and each time we want to move it, we've got to manually pick up the irrigators and move them. So I'm wanting to set up some subsurface irrigation in here, get the tractor out, rip some lines, bury some pipe, and put in probably 4 or 5 or 6 different zones of sprinklers. And that way, all we need to do really is turn a tap or flick a switch and change which zone we're working in to be able to water this whole area. We are on tank water, so we haven't got access to town water, which essentially means that all the water we use here is quite a precious commodity. We have got the dam, but we don't want to dry it up too quick, and also not really wanting to waste water on grass. I'd rather use it for veggies and aquaponics and all of those sort of things as well. Now, while I haven't set up any subsurface irrigation before, I have used it, so hopefully I've got enough of an idea to be able to get by. If you have any ideas of sprinklers to use or anything like that, let me know. But yeah, hopefully that'll be one of the jobs to get done this year as well. Well, by far, the biggest upgrade that we got coming up this year is putting a new carport up next to the house. There is an existing slab there, got put there when the house was built. Kids love playing handball and stuff, so that's one of the purposes for putting it up. But the main function for that carport is to house some solar. We're gonna have a skillion roof that's all facing north-northeast, so that's the same aspect as the back of our house. Catch as much sun as we can, put a big solar system on, also putting a battery underneath that carport as well to take advantage of the federal government's cheaper home battery scheme. And then the third function of it, which is also quite a big one, is to catch an extra 50 odd square metres of rainwater. So we are living on rainwater, we haven't got access to town water. We have bought a couple of loads of water this year. And ideally I would like to set up some water filtration from the dam, but until then, obviously the more water we can catch, the better. I'll give you guys a quick aquaponics update. This bed here was overgrown with silver beet up until probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, as well as these spring onions that we've cut back and dehydrated for some powder. In the last couple of weeks, we have put in a couple of tomatoes. We're mostly wanting to have tomatoes in this bed. Had a couple of cracks at it, but it wasn't draining properly. I think it just wasn't quite deep enough, so we filled it up with a bit more hydroton. Also given it a clean out, extended the siphon, so it's draining properly now. And you can see we have got a bit of greenery going through there. They're a lot happier now than what they were. Hopefully in another couple of weeks or a month or so, we'll have some tomatoes coming out of that one. Another one of the smaller projects that we did last year was to put in this filtration system for the tank. I will talk about that a bit later on in the year when we do our dam filtration for drinking water. Not too sure when that'll be, probably the second half of the year, if you're interested in that. Anyway, we'll go and have a quick look inside and I'll show you what we're doing in the shed. Right, well, if you've seen our last video, you would have seen our fish kill. We had about 20 trout die in this tank a couple of weeks ago on a couple of consecutive 42-degree days. I did make a fish emulsion out of those fish. It has stopped smelling, which I think is a pretty good sign that it's getting pretty close. I can see it is still bubbling over there. I'll get it out in the next couple of weeks when we're looking for some more nitrates. At the moment, our market garden is looking for potassium, seeing as though we're growing things like cucumbers and zucchinis, pumpkins, watermelons, all of that sort of thing that are looking for, you know, the big fruity stuff. We have got some early corn growing out there as well that will be looking for nitrate shortly, so I'll be adding that into there. And speaking of the market garden, we have had our first harvest of garlic this last couple of weeks. We've got about 40 heads of Dungascan garlic out and about 20 of the elephant garlic. I think we put in 4 heads of each. I can't remember how many cloves of each there were. The elephants haven't done so well. We've only had one that ended up sending up a scape, which is, you know, the flour that comes out of the garlic. It's looking pretty good though. Quite a big head of garlic. Got quite a few nice looking cloves in there. All the other elephants haven't formed cloves. They've just instead formed a round. So they'll all be going back in probably about March for next season. The Dungascans are all looking pretty good. They're a lot smaller than the elephants, but all of them have formed cloves, and yeah, they're looking pretty tasty, I'll be honest. Yeah, so bit of a squiz at them if you're interested. The area where the garlic are currently curing is obviously not ideal, not really purpose built. It's just an old outdoor brooder that we've had for some chickens that I thought would be a pretty good space to put them up off the ground and hopefully keep some of the mice and rats and stuff off them. Where this area is though, sometime this year I am planning on building a storage room. It'll be about 2 metres by 2 metres by about 2.5 high. And that'll be used for storing things like any tomato paste, tomato sauces, passatas, all of that sort of stuff that we make and haven't got storage room for in the house, as well as things like pumpkins and potatoes and all of that sort of long storage life produce. Well, that's pretty well our 2026 plans in a nutshell. If you're interested in following along our progress with the aquaponics or the progress with market garden down the bottom, or just our progress in general, feel free to hit that subscribe button and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.